tired of feeling like you have brain fog and lack of energy and just a sense of vigor and excitement in your life and kind of constant headaches and aches and pains and just things that you want to avoid. And then you just kind of have this feeling that you just physically things aren't exactly the way you want them to be. And so it could be a variety of things, but one big thing in America is this thing right here. And that is right there, sugar. So I'm going to go over a few things today that will really help you understand the dangers of sugar. So I have 5 detrimental effects of sugar, and it should be very informative to you. But first off, let me ask you this question. How much sugar do you think that you eat every single day? And so let me pull out this Dr. Pepper right here. This is an empty bottle. I didn't just drink it. But this right here has how many teaspoons? So this would be a teaspoon. And this would be your Dr. Pepper. How many teaspoons in this? How many ounces is it? 20-ounce bottle of Dr. Pepper. And the answer is about 15 teaspoons, well, about 14 teaspoons, because there's 65 grams of sugar in this bottle right here. So about 14 teaspoons. And so the average American eats about 20 to 25 teaspoons of sugar every single day. And you got to ask yourself, are they drinking pop and eating ice cream all day? And it's probably not the case for most people that they're not eating, candy and ice cream all day. A lot of the sugars are hidden in our foods, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. But again, it's about 20 to 25 teaspoons of sugar, and that equals out to about, that'd be about almost 3 pounds a week. So this would be a 4-pound thing of sugar here. And you're looking at 3/4 of this per week. And then that average American is doing this the next week and the next week and the next week. And that averages out to about 130 to 150 pounds of sugar a year. And so if you put that in historical perspective, in the year 1900, we were eating about 70 pounds. In the year 1800, it was less than 20 pounds. And now we're eating about 150 pounds of sugar per year. And so there's a lot of nutritional problems in America, but I think sugar especially is kind of the top dog. So I'm going to give you 5 detrimental effects of sugar. And I'll name them to you right now. So it's inflammation, hormonal imbalances, triglycerides and fat gain, gut bacteria imbalance, and then decreases nutrients. So again, that's inflammation, hormonal imbalances, triglycerides and weight gain, gut bacteria, and decreasing nutrients. So let me talk about the first one, and that is inflammation. So think about when you sprain an ankle, you injure yourself. The body is going to send inflammation to that injury site. Okay, it senses that, hey, something's wrong here. We need to kind of deal with this, and that's a good thing. The body sends inflammation via the immune system, red blood cells, white blood cells, to deal with an injury. And in our body, we have to have some inflammation at all times. Okay, but we don't want too much inflammation, because inflammation is basically detrimental to the body. And you might have heard it before that all disease is derived from inflammation, and that's true. Every physical effect out there, every physical problem is going to be the result of inflammation in some regard. Okay, so to give you another example, my seasonal allergies are going to be coming up pretty bad here in the next couple of weeks, probably. Now it's gotten a lot better since I've gotten good nutrients via vitamins and minerals. But what happens is that pollen gets into my system. My immune system says, well, that's a problem. And then the inflammation is sent to kind of deal with it. That's how I get my watery eyes and stuffy nose and runny nose and things like that. So chronic inflammation. So what I just kind of explained, that was localized inflammation. So this would be like in my sinuses and head, and the sprained ankle will be in the ankle. But sugar, especially, and there's lots of other foods that can do this too. brings about systemic inflammation. Systemic means all over, okay, throughout all of the systems. Um, and that's a problem because, for example, heart disease and cardiovascular disease. Uh, we've always kind of been taught that cholesterol and fat clogs your arteries, but actually what happens is it's the sugar and the highly refined carbs that cause the inflammation, and basically the inflammation is on the inside of the arteries, and cholesterol comes to heal the inflammation. So cholesterol gets blamed, but it's actually the inflammation caused by the sugary foods. But it's even more than that. The organs get inflamed. The immune system has to take care of more business because of the inflammation. It's just overall not a very good thing. And this, when you have inflammation, you don't feel good. You end up with headaches. You end up with just fatigue, not feeling well, etc. So the second one is hormonal imbalances. The main kind of issue with the hormone imbalances is that sugar messes with ghrelin, leptin. These are hunger hormones, and those hunger hormones can be stimulated and suppressed. So, for instance, ghrelin is a hunger hormone within your intestinal system and your digestive system. It basically tells you that you're hungry. So you get those hunger pains and you're like, I'm hungry. Ghrelin is stimulated. But what actually happens is with sugar, ghrelin is overstimulated. So let's say you take a kid and you give them, one of these, pops right before a meal. The studies have actually shown, and I've read a couple of these, that if the kid drinks this before a meal, they'll actually eat about 200 calories more during the meal, as compared to if they didn't drink this at all. And that's because ghrelin is overstimulated when the sugar is eaten. Leptin is another hunger hormone. It's called a satiety hormone. It's made in the brain, and it basically tells you to stop eating. So have you ever gone to a buffet and the first meal, the first plate you have, it tastes great and you're really excited to eat it and it just tastes wonderful. Then after about the third or fourth plate, the food doesn't really taste as good anymore. And you wonder, well, why is that? It's actually leptin in the brain telling your body, hey, I'm done eating, etc. So sugar will actually suppress leptin, and then on the flip side, it'll stimulate ghrelin. Okay. And so they've done a lot of research on obesity, people that are overweight, not just obese, but overweight. What they found is that all people who are overweight and obese have a problem with leptin. Leptin is just not working. They basically become leptin resistant. They're not sensing leptin. Therefore, they're going to overeat. So sometimes we say, well, a person needs willpower to stop eating these foods. Well, if leptin's not working, then willpower can't overcome, leptin. Also, I'm sure you've heard about insulin or insulin resistance. So basically, insulin is the hormone that basically gets sugar, glucose, into cells. Well, what would happen if your cell becomes resistant to insulin? So now you have a cell insulin is basically like a key. Insulin opens the cell up, lets the glucose in. Well, what if the cell doesn't respond to the insulin? Then the key can't go in, the glucose can't get in. You end up with lots and lots of blood sugar, high blood sugars. Think about prediabetes and diabetes, things like that. So sugar promotes insulin resistance. And that, when we think about it, we hear about this 1/3 of Americans are either pre-diabetic or diabetic. It's crazy to think about. So, and then in addition to that, sugar messes with cortisol, which is your stress hormone. Okay, which actually that's based on inflammation, cortisol, all those things go together. All right, our third one is triglycerides and fat. Okay, so a lot of people don't realize this, but excess carbs get converted in the liver to triglycerides. Triglycerides are fat in the blood, and that's not a bad thing. But when we eat too many refined carbohydrates, that excess glucose, that extra sugar, gets converted into triglycerides, and that promotes us being, gaining fat. And so sugar especially converts into triglycerides because sugar is actually not just glucose. See, when we eat say cereal, bread, or pasta or something, we're breaking those things down into glucose. That excess glucose will be converted into triglycerides, Not all of it. Okay, some of it will be stored in the liver, some of it will be used directly by the cells, but the conversion rate, I think I was reading, it's about somewhere around like 25% of it. If it's excess, it's going to be converted into triglycerides. The sugar, when you look at this, it's actually 50% glucose. Sorry, I'm getting a little technical here, but 50% glucose and 50% fructose. Fructose, think about fructose in fruit or vegetables. God created it, fructose, to be in vegetables and fruit with fiber. So you can't eat a whole lot of fructose because the fiber prohibits you from doing it. But sugar, you could eat a ton of fructose, and fructose is like an 80 to 90% conversion rate into triglycerides. So you end up with tons of triglycerides, a lot of fat gain from the fructose of it. That's also, that can be applied to fruit juice, okay, like orange juice or apple juice or things like that. So limit that as much as possible. So fructose itself, without the fiber, really promotes that triglyceride conversion. Okay, so again, the first one was inflammation. The second one was hormonal imbalance. The third one was triglycerides and fat. The fourth one is really important. It's called gut bacteria. Okay, so in your intestines, you have gut bacteria, and the gut bacteria actually outnumbers your cells by a lot. There's lots more bacteria in your gut than there are cells in your body. And that bacteria is really important because it's the foundation for your immune system. And it's actually the building blocks for serotonin in your brain. So the serotonin is a neurotransmitter in your brain that helps your brain function. And then, like I said, the immune system with the gut bacteria. And so, those two things are very important. Think about how many Americans have mental disorders. It's like 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 6. And could that be connected to the gut bacteria, which is the building block, basically the foundation for serotonin? Serotonin affects dopamine. These neurotransmitters get, it gets really complex. But think of it this way. In your intestines, you have to have more good bacteria than bad bacteria. Okay. So 10% of your bacteria in your gut is always going to be kind of bad. 10% is always going to be kind of good. The 80% in the middle can go one way or the other. Okay. So if you provide your gut bacteria with good quality stuff, such as fiber, good quality, vegetables, fruits, and good quality fats and meats, things, you're promoting more good bacteria, okay, which is going to promote the immune system, brain, make you feel better, and all these things. And of course, you think about what would be the bad things that would feed the bad bacteria. Well, sugar, of course, highly refined carbohydrates, foods that are bad are going to feed bad bacteria. Think about, sugar feeding yeast, and we have people with candida problems and these things. That's gut bacteria. So there's also this thing in the gut called leaky gut. So the walls of your intestines should be kind of nice and closed like this. What happens is, through inflammation, back to that word, inflammation can occur, and that wall kind of opens up, and you end up with kind of holes in there. Okay, I don't know how to really show you that, but and then undigested food particles can kind of go through those holes, and they end up in the bloodstream, and the immune system starts attacking these foreign substances. They don't know what it is, and you end up with autoimmune problems. Lots of people have that. You end up with food intolerances. All of a sudden, you're allergic to gluten out of nowhere, or dairy or something like that. And so those things can happen because of leaky gut. And to give you an idea of this, about 70% of Americans have leaky gut, which is that's pretty high. So that's my fourth one. And then the last one is decreasing nutrients. So think about this. If you remember science class from way back when you metabolize energy, you have to use minerals and vitamins to bring in that energy, the whole ATP Krebs cycle, thing, and the mitochondria. And you have to have B vitamins, you have to have minerals, you need magnesium and potassium, sodium, and manganese. There's lots of minerals and vitamins that we need to metabolize energy. When you eat unhealthy food, sugar especially, you have to use more minerals and vitamins, more of that stored stuff, okay, to metabolize the energy. So now not only are we using more vitamins and minerals to metabolize this thing, but now we're not replacing it. So you have to use your food to replace what you're using to metabolize the energy. So of course, sugar has no nutritional value. So now we're using more from our storage and now we're not replacing it. So it's basically a decrease of nutrients. And that's a major problem. It's not just sugar, but sugar is the main culprit. Okay. So those are my 5. So here's kind of the takeaway. Okay. And I'll leave you with this. We want to decrease our sugar intake as much as possible. When you go to the grocery store, stay to the outside of the grocery store. The inside of the grocery store is about 85% added sugar. Okay, and I'll give you an idea of this. I went to my closet and I got some peanut butter. Okay, now we try to like limit the sugar as much as possible here, but in 2 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons is about what you would eat with this. You're looking at about 4 grams of sugar. So every 4 grams of sugar is going to give you a teaspoon. 4 grams sugar, teaspoon. Average American, 20 to 25 of these a day. Okay. So there's one right there. That's assuming you only eat 2 tablespoons. Okay. So this is an interesting one. You know, low fat yogurt. Okay, actually, this is Greek yogurt. If you look on here, this would just be a 2/3 of a cup. So that's a really small amount. That's only this right here. You think you're going to eat more than that? I would assume you would eat more than that. Okay. That has 15 grams of added sugar, almost 4 teaspoons of sugar in this Greek yogurt right here. I also pulled out these kind of instant mashed potatoes. Prepared, it looks like 6 grams of added sugar. So, you know, a teaspoon and a half. All right. And you would think, you know, cranberries, I found these in my closet. The cranberries are also, they're already high sugar, high fructose. And why would they add sugar to this? So if I look at the ingredients, it's cranberries, sugar, first 2 ingredients. Okay, well, the only 2 of the 3 ingredients. It has about 29 grams of added sugar for 1/4 of a cup. That's crazy, right? And so, you know, as you go through, look at nutrition labels, see if there is added sugar in it. And then you can also track your sugar. I use an app called MyFitnessPal. It's really good to kind of track your food and track, you know, what you're doing there. And then the last thing is, you know, eat as many whole foods as possible. So eat as many fruits and vegetables as you can. But here is the big problem with this. Okay, the soils that food's grown in now, okay, is very depleted. They've done many studies. They've compared like fruits and vegetables from 1950 until now, and it's anywhere from 20 to 60% decreased in vitamins and minerals as compared to 1950. And you might say, why? Well, it has to do with the pesticides, the herbicides, and also just soil rotation. So farmers, I'm not blaming anybody, but farmers are, you know, they want to make yield, they want to make money, so they're not, you know, rotating the crops usually, you know, as they should. So this is why I promote a product called Pure, Live Pure, PURE, People United Reaching Everyone, and we sell really good nutritional supplements. Because think about it, if the vitamins and minerals are lacking in your vegetables and your fruits, you really only have 2 options, right? You either, well, 3 options. You grow it at home, completely grow it at home, year round, you know, canning and everything like that. Most people are not going to do that. Number 2 is eat more vegetables, but I don't even think you can make up the difference. Okay. Or the third one is supplement with good quality nutrients. Okay. So those kind of the options that you have there, and your body is, you know, craving these nutrients, and it's pretty much screaming out, please give me nutrients, you know? And so, all right, hope you enjoyed my presentation. If you have any questions, I will post my information below, and I hope you have a great night. Thank you.